Jump straight back into the show with perhaps the craziest Mario speedrunning world record that I've ever seen anyway. That's because one speedrunner named KingJ has managed to run 100% 9 3D Mario games in a single 44-hour marathon. That's right, he got every single star, moon or shine across all those Mario games in one sitting. Let's take a moment when he finished his marathon run.
Bowser throws on DS.
One hit or 4 misses before.
I've never had this much pressure 40 hours into a speedrun. 1.
7.
Well, 1 out of 4.
Oh,
Oh my god. Yes! Ah! God, it's over! Oh my god, it's 7-minute Bowser in the sky! I don't care! The 64 DS was a joke! We did it, baby!
Well, I'm very excited to say now that I'm joined by KingJ to join us to talk about his monster run. Thank you so much for joining us, Jerry. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. I mean, first of all, a massive congratulations. We saw that winning moment there. That was, just for context, that was after 44 hours of playing. So you must have had a whole load of emotions running through your head at that point.
Yeah, there was a lot going in. It was most, like, when I got to that end, I missed so many Bowser throws, so the end was just like, thank God I finally finished this.
Well, that's it in speedruns, you actually have that pressure of like, you're getting to the end of the good run, right? But then you also have the, you know, the absolute tiredness and exhaustion that comes with playing it for such a long, extended amount of time.
Yeah, the thing with these long runs, especially this one with it being like over 40 hours long, is just like making sure that you're sane the whole time. And at the end, it's that moment of relief where you can be like, okay, I can play something else. I can stop playing Mario.
I'm just sick
now.
of Mario. I mean, we should start by giving some context on just how like impressive this run is, right? So your record is in the 3D Mario 2405 category. So for those unfamiliar with like 3D Mario speedruns, just give us a quick rundown on how those kind of categories actually work.
Yeah, so this category actually doesn't exist because no one had done it before. This is every mainline 3D Mario game 100% by its collectible status. So in order, the categories I did was Super Mario 64 120 stars, Super Mario Galaxy 120 stars, Super Mario Sunshine 120 shines, Super Mario Galaxy 2 242 stars, Super Mario 3D World 380 stars, Super Mario Odyssey All Moons, which is 880, Bowser's Fury 100 cat shines, and 3D Land All Star Medals, which is 293, and then ending it off with 64 DS 150 star.
I mean, that is, it just sounds like you've had to do like a serious amount of homework, not only to remember how many stars in them, but obviously when you're playing this, right, you've got to remember the locations of all these, all the tricks and intricacies to do all that. So what kind of like prep goes into a run like this?
Well, I've been running all the games for around 4 years now, and like working on all the categories. So I've had the prep work and been getting decent times in all of them. So it's all kind of muscle memory now, so I didn't really have to worry about too much. Stuff like Mario Odyssey, which is like an 8-hour run and has 880 collectibles, I do have like a route on my phone for, so I make sure I remember stuff. But in terms of prepping, it was just those 4 years of running the games on and off, and then a month prior, I just completely grinded each of the games and did one full run of each one every day, just to make sure I was ready to go.
Nice. I mean, out of those 9 games, right, like, was there a specific order you had to do, or was it, I guess you probably kind of tried to structure them in a way that kind of took into account maybe how much you enjoyed it, how difficult they was, because obviously as you're getting further and further into the run, the harder and harder it's going to be to kind of maintain that kind of level of like speedrunning, right? So how did you decide the order to go through?
Well, the order that we usually do, so there's this race every half a year called the 602 race, which is the first 4 games that I mentioned, where a bunch of people race it, like upwards of 50 people race this and see who can win. And so I kept that order, and I also have done 1862 in the in the past, which is everything up to Odyssey. So I decided to keep that order of games. And it's also so that we split up the two Galaxy games because you don't want to do like 15 hours of Galaxy
Yeah.
movement. So we split that up with Sunshine. And then in terms of the games that I end with, the reason why I chose to end with super fast-paced games, because Galaxy games are more laid back, there's a lot more cutscenes and stuff like that, but I want to make sure I'm staying awake and alert when, especially 30 hours in. So I always make sure to keep those very high-speed
Right.
runs for the end of the game. Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. I mean, out of those 9 games, do you have particular favorites, or even maybe one that you particularly dread?
Uh, well, I will always say that I hate Mario 64 DS, but that's just a personal thing. I just never really liked the controls. So putting that at the end was a choice, that's for sure. In terms of favorite, though, the ones that I have like my better times in are Super Mario 3D Worlds. I hold a top 10 spot in that. Actually, it might be top 15 now, but so that one I put like the most work into, and then Super Mario 64 is also just a good way to start off because it's like the classic. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great game. I mean, let's go back to kind of like the time element of it as well, because like it's hard to comprehend, not only how long 44 hours is, but also like speedrunning games throughout that time. So in terms of like your preparations or your kind of tactics for that, right? Is it just a whole load of energy drinks and caffeine and coffee, or like how do you prep for like the physical element of doing this?
Actually, yeah, like I don't think people have asked me if I do like 5 hour energies for this or anything like that, and I just don't think that's a good idea. I thought about bringing in like caffeine or something like that, but I feel like it's just gonna make me crash more than anything
Mm.
afterwards, or like midway through the run. So I just alternate between drinking water to stay hydrated, and then also like some sort of soda, so like Pepsi or something like that, to get a little bit of caffeine, but not too much. And then aside from that, there's not really much. It's hard to explain how to prepare for this. I just sleep beforehand, and I've always been someone who can stay up for long periods of time.
Mm.
So I've never really had an issue with that, and playing the games actually really does keep my focus, and that's how I'm able to stay up for that long amount of time and stay focused on that.
I mean, after that run, did you just crash? Like, did you just collapse and fall asleep for like? I'm curious because part of me is like, surely this dude must have like hit his bed and just fallen asleep for like 24 hours. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if you like slept for like a couple of hours and then like, yeah, okay, let's go.
That's actually what I did because I timed this out so that that run ended at around noon at my time. So I didn't want to actually ruin my sleep schedule.
Right.
So what I did was I slept for about 5 hours, woke up, had dinner, stayed up for another few hours, and then went to sleep at a regular time so that I
Nice.
wouldn't completely be like screwed over for days.
Nice. I like how you regulated your sleep there. Like, despite doing 2 hours of like constant gaming, you're like, no, sleep pattern can't be ruined here, which I totally respect. I mean, one of the things that's like really interesting about speedrunning is that like you really, because I've been getting into watching all kinds of speedrunning content recently, and it's a really great way of learning all the kind of intricacies behind a game. And quite often, like I'll be watching someone do something and I'll learn something about the game that I never knew, right? It could be like a Zelda game that I've put hundreds of hours in, and like there's this tiny little trick that speeds things up that I never would have known of until I watched that stream. So let's say Mario Odyssey being the latest like Mario game, is there any like little tips or tricks that, maybe someone could integrate into playing that you would give as a speedrunner?
Yeah, the main basic movement for Mario Odyssey is shaking the controller when you're rolling, and that's like our fastest form of movement. So throughout the 8 hours of that run, I'm constantly shaking the controller to move faster, and that's something you probably would never know when you play the game originally. But a lot of motion controls in that game is used just to go a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, what is it about Mario games in particular that like draws you? Because obviously there's so many games to speedrun here. Like I grew up playing like Super Mario 64 and all the Mario games coming up, and I'm just kind of curious what it is to that franchise in particular that because obviously if you're going to be speedrunning it, you're going to play it again and again and again, so you've got to love it. So what is it about Mario games that draws you to it?
I mean, I grew up with it. I grew up with Mario 64 and Galaxy 2 were the main ones that I played a lot as a kid. And just seeing how fast I could beat them, those were my first speedruns that I ever did. And then gradually I started playing the other ones, and I just really enjoyed the series, the movements, and the fast-paced nature of the games when it comes to speedrunning them. And also the glitches, because you can walk through walls in Mario Sunshine, and it's completely normal. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, what about like if someone wants to take up speedrunning, right? Because obviously it's a lot of fun, but I imagine for a lot of people, like the scene's been going for so long now, it's probably quite an intimidating thing to get into. So if someone was like, you know what, I think this is for me, I want to give it a go, what kind of tips would you give someone if they wanted to get into it? What wisdom would you bestow?
I'd say just jump right into it, because we have so many discords for the specific games, if no matter which one you're interested in, and we have people there who are willing to help you out, learn the tricks that are needed to do the run, and just get a feel for the movements and the games in general. So if you have any interest at all, there's a lot of resources at your disposal to get started with that.
Just one more very quick question. Obviously you did this massive run. Is the next challenge going to be 44 hours?
I think in terms of like length, this is probably the longest I'm going to go for. This is something I've been working towards for like 4 years, so it's like a magnum opus. But I do want to do other long runs for other series. I'm just not sure exactly what at the moment, but there's other stuff I want to do.
Amazing.
Sure.
Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. Well, look.